Saturday, December 5th, 2020. Okay, so I want to talk about body image from a woman who has a life-limiting illness, who is going through and it's cancer, and I'm going through chemotherapy to do my best to extend the amount of time that I have left. And as a result, there are side effects that come along with that, and how all of these things that are going on with me and therefore my body, or my body therefore me, I don't, one or the other, or maybe both, it's maybe the same thing, and how I've really been thinking about things this week about just body image, just about how I feel about myself physically. Because it's not just, losing hair, it's not just about how I'm feeling. I think it's, like I've lived 46 years of my life up until now, and I was born in Japan. So for the first 6 years of my life, I grew up in Japan, and they have in Japan, they have in Asia too, they have a completely different idea of like body image, like when it comes to women. And then I came to Canada when I was 6 and grew up here from the age of 6 until I've lived here, for 40 years. And there's a completely different like body ideal here. And when I was growing up here in Canada, and I think a lot of people are talking about it now, there wasn't a lot of Asian representation. So when I looked out into the world in terms of media and the things that were on TV or in magazines or things like that, in the movies, no one looked like me. Or there were very few people that looked like me. And if they would represent or have Asian people, sometimes it would be non-Asian people trying to look like Asian people. Or there was also some kind of a twist to it, right? Like we looked different. We looked goofier, or we didn't look as good. There was some, and so it was, when I was growing up, it was a tough time to kind of get a sense of myself and my aesthetic and like my own sense of, confidence in my own sort of like physicality, I guess, or like how I just looked aesthetically. I just always felt as though I had my own style and things like that. I never shied away from having just doing what I really wanted to do, or like wear what I wanted to wear and listen to the things I wanted to listen to and have the kind of experiences that I wanted to experience, like all these kinds of things. Like I think I really explored as a kid, because I didn't see, and I didn't have any siblings either to kind of give me any guidance from that perspective. So I just explored a lot in terms of what piqued my curiosity. But the biggest thing I think that has been a challenge, and I think is a challenge for so many of us, and it doesn't even matter how old we are, is about like our own sense of our own physical selves and how we feel about our physical selves, how we present our physical selves, how we just have like a holistic integration of the fullness of who we are, including like how we feel about ourselves and what we understand about ourselves physically. So I think that it's fair to say that I've always been very unsure of myself when it comes to how I felt about myself physically. My dad specifically would say like, you're a handsome person, which is always like a strange thing that I had thought that he would say. And I've also had other people say, it's like, well, I remember like had an ex-boyfriend from high school who's like, well, you're not beautiful, but you are, like you're very unique and you're striking, or something like that. Like I would hear, these kind of like strange ways of of being um, I guess what people felt about me, or their, specific opinions about me, when it came like physically. And like my mom would always say kawaii kawaii, like really cute. But there's also like a Japanese translation of kawaii, which is also about preciousness, I think, not just about like cutesy things, but when it comes to when they talk about children being kawaii, I think there is also an interpretation of that when it comes to just, it's like, oh, like a dear precious child. And so I would hear kawaii in that way. But like always had like this really difficult, I think, relationship with my physical self and how I felt about myself physically, and what I thought would be acceptable in the world or whatever. Like it's been a struggle my entire life in terms of my physical self, and whether I would be considered to be, I don't know, like an attractive person or something like that. And I know that every one of us as human beings, like we have doubts about ourselves in relation to other people. For a while, there was a time in maybe like early 20s or something like that, where I was just like, is there something about me that I'm not seeing, that's maybe that everybody else is seeing, that is that is repulsive, or like, something that isn't seen as normal or something like that. And it's like like a lot of many people, a lot of people in different ways have had body image, challenges, and I'm not trying to even come close to saying that the challenges that I have had, it's on a spectrum, right? Like everybody has some level of maybe doubt about themselves, but then there are also folks who really, really, really struggle with their body image and themselves in relation to their physical selves. And I'm not saying that I'm certainly was ever on that end of the spectrum, but I've had my weirdness in terms of like thinking about these things. Like maybe, people see me differently than I seem to see myself. In the mirror, or in reflections and things like that. And so there's always been like the sense, I think, like physically, of like, am I acceptable, or am I attractive, or these questions that I guess I would have about myself, and I would have that over the duration of my life in different ways. I think that weight has been an issue for me since I was a young child. And I think that there's probably a number of things that might actually be a reason for that. But I think a big part of it could actually be that I've had a lot of different kinds of strange traumas in my life. I don't know that I would call them like necessarily capital T type of traumas, but a lot of different unconventional type experiences that many children don't go through. And some of them were quite difficult and challenging and hard for a young child to go through. And it's certainly maybe, at some point I might talk about them. I'm not going to get into it today. But from a very young age, there were a number of like quite stressful things that I had to live through. And that was, when it maybe even back in Japan before I immigrated. And then there's also the whole immigration process, which is a really, really hard thing for children and adults alike, where, the idea is that you go to a new place like Canada to start a new life, but it's a really, really hard thing. It's a really hard traumatic thing. it doesn't rip you. It takes you out of your comfort zone. It takes you out of the language that you know, and the things that you're able to count on. And it changes everything. And then you have to adapt, and people may not always be kind about it. There's a lot of different things. And so you can question yourself on so many different levels, and especially if you are visibly different, in a country like Canada, you are maybe treated differently as a result of the fact that you look different, right? And so then there's another kind of layer around like what it means to look different physically, and does that mean that I'm not normal in some way? And then you layer on top of that women's over sexualization of women, or like what beauty is considered to be when it comes to being a woman. All of that is it. I mean, how can it not mess with you, right? And I think it messes with so many of us. And I will, admit that throughout my entire life, it's just been a big challenge. So fast forward. So all this to say, fast forward to now, where I have been diagnosed in late September of this life-limiting illness of pancreatic cancer. It's stage 4 pancreatic cancer that I have. And that at the time that I was diagnosed, I was jaundiced. So I looked not healthy at the time. And so, so that in terms of indicating my that I was not well, that I looked unwell. And once I was diagnosed and had the understanding that in order to start treatment to hopefully prolong my life for as long as possible, I had to first get the jaundice under control. That I had to get rid of being jaundiced. So for the first little while, that's what I was focused on, and once the jaundice, I was no longer jaundiced, I looked relatively healthy, and I still, in some ways, may look relatively healthy. But you and I know that I have the stage 4 pancreatic cancer, so I'm not healthy, and I'm also now going through chemotherapy, which further makes me less healthy, or less in good health, I guess. But visually speaking, I mean, it could be argued that you might not know. Like if I was sitting in a car, you pass me in a car or on the street or something like that, I may be moving a little bit slower, so you may be a little impatient with me trying to get around me or something like that. But for the most part, you might just look at me and go, like she's just moving slowly for whatever reason. Or if I'm sitting in a car and you see me, she's like, whatever. Like you won't give a thought maybe as to my health status, I guess. So the one thing that I'm aware of is that as time goes on, is true for everyone, but specifically for me, as treatment goes on, as things advance, I am going to visually appear less healthy or in poor health. And that's, it's an idea right now, and it's getting my head around like what that means, right? Because I don't want for people to feel sorry for me or to pity me. Have support and to experience love and care that people have for me is different from pity, I feel. And the reality is, like, just like I talked about how body image and this idea of like beauty and stuff like that is like represented in a certain way in culture. I'm talking specifically about like mainstream, like Western culture, or like what people see on Instagram or whatever. there's also what we think of visually when it comes to folks who have illness, who are experiencing a lack of good health. And I think that what comes along with that is somehow that maybe pity, or like this less than feeling, or a less than way of viewing a person who is experiencing an illness or being in poor health. So I think that when I started losing hair this week on Monday, and I continue to lose hair to this day, I've lost a lot of hair. And I would imagine that I'm going to continue to lose the remainder. I'm going to guess. I think the thing that I've been confused about this week is like this idea of, what does it mean for me to lose my hair? I've had this relationship with my hair my entire life. I've been very fortunate that I've had really great genes when it comes to hair and nails, skin. Not something that there have been other times in my life, maybe one other time in my life where I had some hormonal stuff happen a couple of years ago where I lost a bunch of hair and stuff like that. But my relationship with my hair has always been like this thing that it's grown and it's been healthy. It's been a lot. I've always gotten compliments on my hair, and I've been grateful for the fact that I've had nice hair my entire life. I don't know that I put my identity on it. Maybe to some degree I have. I'm still sorting through that. But it's not about this hair that I've had that I'm losing now. It's more about what it means to not have hair, what it means or what it signals, right? And like I guess that's what I'm struggling with, is what it may be signaling to others. And then I'm also struggling with, why does it matter what it signals to others? And I think the answer is that at the end of the day, we're social creatures. We want to be loved, and we want to be liked. Or at the very least, like not to be turned away, or not for people to turn away from. And I think that is, when it comes right down to it, sort of the concern or the fear that I have. So if I lose my hair, if I look ill, if I look like I'm someone who has cancer or who is in poor health, does it mean that people will turn away from me? Or does it mean that, yeah, I guess that's what it really is. Like, does it marginalize me somehow? And the rational part of me is like, well, this is the life that I'm living, and regardless of how other people may respond, that's what it is. But it's very complicated. It's very, very complicated, because on one hand, it's true. I mean, this is what my reality is, and what happens, and people are going to respond in the way that they respond, and that's out of my control. And the people who love me regardless of what happens with my hair. But I also I don't know, do I want to really be apart from everybody else? But this experience in some ways does make me apart. So it's like this strange tension right now that I'm experiencing, that I'm physically going to look apart. and what that is gonna mean for me, or what that means for me. So that's what I've been grappling with this this past week, and I think I'll talk more about perhaps like my other stuff around like body image and like before and maybe now at a later time. I guess, you know, the one thing that I will mention, and maybe I haven't mentioned this up to this point, but I made a very conscious decision when I was diagnosed and I started making these videos to not put on any makeup, that I was going to just, you know, present myself as I am. And because I just wanted, you know, to be as transparent as possible. And, you know, up until this point, I would, up until like just a couple months ago, I would not, you know, I would at least put on some, you know, like maybe I'll like draw my eyebrows in or put some color on my lips or something before I'd go out or whatever. Even if it's, I didn't put a lot of makeup on ever, but always something. But I just decided that, you know, like this, you know, what the important thing now isn't those things, that it's about is being authentic and showing up in my most authentic way as possible. So that's the reason why I haven't been, you know, getting dolled up or like, you know, to put on makeup in order to get in front of the camera. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about the fact that my current tension with what's happening, some of it because I don't want to be seen, I think, as a person that's sick or a person that has cancer or a person who is, I don't want to be defined that way. And what if the way that I look defines me that way? I think that's part of what I'm struggling with. The other struggle is the fact that I would like to appear as someone who is visually appealing. You know, whether I am or not, I don't know. But, you know, like I don't want to be unattractive. But what does that even mean, right? Because one of the things that I've been thinking about is like, I was like, oh, well, I can shave my hair off. I can just, you know, get rid of it and not have to worry about whether, you know, how much more of it's going to fall off. But what's stopping me, I think, from doing that is, I don't know if I am going to lose the rest of this, probably, but I might not. But secondly, when I was in high school, I actually shaved my hair off at one point, and I don't have a very well-shaped head. It's, I was telling Joe this morning, it's, for those of you who are Star Wars fans, at the very end of Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader takes off his helmet, and he has a very kind of lumpy, not a very attractive head. And I was telling Joe, I'm like, you know, if I were to shave my head, I think I'd look like Darth Vader without the helmet. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to look like that. So there's the sort of the aesthetic part of it, right? Like I would like to look like aesthetically not like Darth Vader without a helmet. But I also, you know, don't want to kind of like, I don't know, just look like a person that has cancer, I guess. But I am a person who has cancer. So if I look like a person who has cancer, then that's correct. So yeah, that's the conundrum. That's the thing that I'm struggling with. I know I've been rambling on for, you know, a good number of minutes, like 24 minutes now. But I wanted to talk about it because I think I felt like it's an important thing to talk about, and I think and there will be a different part to this too, I think, because I'm essentially talking about hair today, but also I want to talk about like weight and stuff like that as well. But I feel like this has already gone on too long. But if you made it this far, well, thank you so much for your continuing support and for listening, following along. Thank you so much. As I say, all the stuff that I'm talking about, it's part of the reality of this whole thing. But I think the important parts, and like when I really feel grounded and, really rich, is when I can feel the love and care for myself and the love and care that people have for me. All of you who have reached out to me to support me, I feel love and care. And when I'm thinking about like these aesthetic things or how I look and all that stuff sort of disappears in these moments where I feel really connected, and to know that others feel connected to me. So I know, right, that there's something there about the power of just feeling connected and feeling love and care with others and with yourself. So please make sure that you do continue to hold love and care for yourself, and let the other people in your life that you love and care for, let them know that you love and care for them. And I certainly have a lot of love and care for you, and just really appreciate, everything that's happened, on the flip side of this other thing that's happening for me. I also wanted to mention that if you're interested in supporting me as a patron, if you'd like to go over to patreon.com/MIOY, MIOE, there is like a small number of folks who are really supportive of my of what I'm doing here on this channel on a monthly basis. And what I'm doing there is just some additional things where I share some additional like personal things about myself, but also where I am releasing a video that does eventually get released here a little bit earlier than it goes live on YouTube, so you can get like a preview of what's going on before it ends up being released on YouTube, as well as hopefully some other perks if you're interested in getting involved with that. But there's so many ways that people have been supporting me, and it's all so incredibly. It's just meant so much to me. So thank you so much. And on that note, this is a super long video. If you made it this far again, thank you so much. And I will, again, talk to you real soon.